Under a tremendous old tree was a bed of green lawn grass belonging to a gas station. I asked the attendant if I could sleep there, and he said sure, so I stretched out a wool shirt, lay my face flat on it with an elbow out, and with one eye cocked at the snowy Rockies and the hot sun for just a moment. I fell asleep for 2 delicious hours, the only discomfiture being an occasional Colorado aunt. And here I am in Colorado, I kept thinking gleefully, damn, 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 I'm making it. And after a refreshing sleep filled with cobwebby dreams of my past life in the East, I got up, washed in a station men's room, strode off fit and slick as a fiddle to get me a rich, thick milkshake at the Roadhouse to put some freeze in my hot, tormented stomach. Incidentally, a very beautiful Colorado gal gave me that cream. She was all smiles too. I was grateful. It made up for last night. I said to myself, wow, what'll Denver be like? I got on that hot road and off I went to Denver in a brand new car driven by a Denver businessman of about 35. He went 70. I tingled all over. I counted minutes and subtracted miles. And a minute just ahead over the rolling wheat fields, all golden beneath the distant snows of Estes, I'd be seeing old Denver at last. I pictured myself in a Denver bar that night with all the gang. And in their eyes, I would be strange and ragged like the prophet who has walked across the land to bring the dark word. And the only word I had was, wow. The man and I had a long, warm conversation about our respective schemes in life, and before I knew it, we were going over the DeNargo fruit markets outside Denver. There was smoke, smokestacks, rail yards, red brick buildings, and the distant downtown graystone buildings, and here I was, in Denver. He let me off at Larimer Street. I stumbled along with the most wicked grin of joy in the world among the old bums and beat cowboys off Larimer Street. It was also the biggest city I'd seen since Chicago, and the big city buzz made me jump. As I say, in those days, I didn't know Neal as well as I do now. And the first thing I wanted to do was look up Hal Chase immediately, which I did. I called up his house, talked to his mother, and she said, "Why, Jack, what are you doing in Denver? Did you know Ginger was here?" And of course I knew Ginger was there, but that was not my reason for coming. Ginger was Hal's girl, and I played around with her a bit in New York when he wasn't looking. For this, I was really and genuinely sorry. And I hoped Hal still felt the same about me. I don't think he did, but he never showed it. The thing about Hal being, he was always as clever as a woman. Hal is a slim, blonde boy with a strange witch doctor face that goes with his interest in anthropology and prehistory Indians. His nose beaks softly and almost creamily under a golden flare of hair. He has the grace of a Western hotshot who's danced in roadhouses and played a little softball. Quavering twang comes out when he speaks. The thing I always liked, Jack, about the Plains Indians was the way they always got so danged embarrassed after they boasted the number of scalps they got. In Ruxton's life in the far west, there's an Indian who gets red all over blushing because he got so many scalps and runs like hell into the plains to glory over his deeds and hide. He's hiding. Damn, that tickled me. Hal's mother located him. In the drowsy Denver afternoon, working over his Indian basket making at the local museum, I called him there. He came and picked me up in his old Ford coupe that he used to take trips to the mountains to dig for Indian objects. He came into the bus station wearing jeans and a big smile. I was sitting on my bag on the floor talking to the very same sailor who'd been in Cheyenne, the bus station with me, asking him what happened to the blonde, but he was so bored he didn't answer. Hal and I got into his little coupe, and the first thing he had to do was get maps at the state building. Then the next thing he had to do was see an old school teacher, and so on. And all I wanted to do was drink beer. And in the back of my mind was the wild, wild thought, where is Neal? And what is he doing right now? Hal had decided not to be Neal's friend anymore for some odd reason since the winter, and he didn't even know where he lived. Is Allen Ginsberg in town? Yes. But he wasn't talking to him anymore either. This was the beginning of Hal's withdrawal from our general gang, and he was going to stop talking to me too in a short while. But I didn't know this, and the plans were for me to take a nap in his house that afternoon, at least. The word that Ed White had an apartment waiting for me up Colfax Avenue, that Alan Temko was already living in it and was waiting for me to join him, I sensed some kind of conspiracy in the air. And this conspiracy lined up two groups in the gang. It was Hal Chase and Ed White and Alan Timko, together with the Burfords, generally agreeing to ignore Neal Cassady and Allen Ginsberg. I was smack in the middle of an interesting war. There were social overtones too, that I'll explain. First, I must set the stage about Neal. He was the son of a wino, one of the most tottering bums of Larimer Street, and had in fact been brought up generally on Larimer Street and thereabouts. Neal used to plead in court at the age of 6 to have his father let free. He used to beg in front of Larimer alleys and sneak the money back to his father, who waited among the broken bottles with an old bum buddy. Then when Neal grew up, he began hanging around the Welton pool halls and set a Denver record for stealing cars and went to the reformatory. From the age of 11 to 17, he was usually in reform school. His specialty was stealing cars, gunning for girls coming out of high school in the afternoon, driving them out to the mountains, screwing them, and coming back to sleep in any available hotel bathtub in town. Meanwhile, his father, once a very respectable and hardworking barber, had become a complete wino, a wine alcoholic, which is worse than a whiskey alcoholic, and was reduced to riding freights to the south in the winter, to Texas, and back to Denver in the summer. Neal had brothers on his dead mother's side. She died when he was small, but they also disliked him. Neal's only buddies were the pool hall boys, a tremendous bunch that I came to meet a few days later. Then Justin Brierly, Justin W. Brierly, tremendous local character who all his life had specialized in developing the potentialities of young people, had in fact been tutor to Shirley Temple for MGM in the 30s, and was now a lawyer, realtor, director of the Central City Opera Festival, and also an English teacher in a Denver high school, discovered Neal. Brierly came to knock on a client's door. This client was always drunk and having wild parties. When Brierly knocked on the door, the client was drunk upstairs. There was a drunken Indian in the parlor, and Neal, ragged and dirty from recent work in a Nebraska manure field, was screwing the maid in the bedroom. Neal ran down to answer the door with a hard-on. Brierly said, well, what is this? Neal ushered him in. What is your name? Neal Cassady? Neal, you'd better learn to wash your ears a little better than that, or you'll never get anywhere in this world. Yes, sir, said Neal, smiling. Who's your Indian friend? What's going on around here? These are strange goings-on, I must say. Justin Brierly was a short, bespectacled, ordinary-looking, Middle West businessman. You couldn't distinguish him from any other lawyer, realtor, director on 17th and Arapahoe near the financial district, except that he had a streak of imagination which would have appalled his confreres had they but known. Brierly was purely and simply interested in young people, especially boys. He discovered them in his English class, taught them the best he knew in literature, groomed them, and made them study till they had astounding marks. Then he got them scholarships to Columbia University, and they returned to Denver years later, the product of his imagination, always with one shortcoming, which was the abandonment of their old mentor for new interests. They went further afield and left him behind. All he knew about anything was gleaned from what he'd made them learn. He'd developed scientists and writers, and youthful city politicians, lawyers and poets, and talked to them. Then he dipped back into his reserve of boys in the high school class and groomed new ones to dubious greatness. He saw in Neal the great energy that would someday make him not a lawyer or a politician, but an American saint. He taught him how to wash his teeth, his ears, how to dress, helped him get odd jobs, and put him in high school. But Neal immediately stole the principal's car and wrecked it. He went to reform school.